Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. And today in studio, I have Abraham Schnitzler of CBC Lighting, and we're talking about selling light bulbs every day. And CBC Lighting is, I guess we would call them a gray market supplier, eh, Greg?
Yeah, I would say that would be an accurate term. Maybe Abe can tell us more.
Yeah, well, you know what? Before he does, what I'm going to say is this, is that if you haven't been in the lighting business for a long time, you don't know what the gray market is. But if you're an old soul, you know what the gray market is, Abe. So cbclighting.com, is that the website?
Yes, www.cbclighting.com. And I just want to correct you on the gray market thing. I'm black and white, not gray.
This episode
He's wearing black and white.
He's wearing black and white. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Keystone Technologies, a good nailed member, friend of ours, friend of Abe's too.
Yes.
Go to keystonetech.com. That's KEYSTONETECH.com, Greg.
Today we're talking about their speed dial programmable drivers. In our discussion today, we talked about the issue with drivers and how difficult it is to find it. What they've got is a driver that you can actually program the milliamp, and it can meet multiple characteristics that you need for one driver, and you reduce your SKUs. It won't work for every application, but it will work for a lot. No computers, no mistakes, no hassle. Speed dial programmable LED drivers from Keystone.
And you know, Abe, Keystone is a ballast company. So they've always been very strong in the driver's side from the beginning. So you go to keystonetech.com. That's KEYSTONETECH.com. And of course, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, where we met.
Yes.
And I got a 90% that CBC Lighting's coming back into the group. Is that correct?
Yes.
So go to the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. That's NAILD.org, baby. Nailed.org. For right now, listen to this wonderful discussion if you're into selling light bulbs. You're going to like it. Abraham Schnitzler, Michael Colligan, and Greg Ehrich on the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. Welcome to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast, Abe.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Say hi to Greg Ehrich.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
Good, Abe. Thanks for coming into the studio there in Toronto. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah. We've been trying to do this for a while.
Yes. We're finally here.
We're finally here. Yeah, we had to have you in studio. So I think what we want to talk about, if I'm not mistaken, is the legacy lamp market.
We want to touch on everything in lamps, but legacy lamp market is one of them for sure.
Where do you see that market going as the stock on hand starts to be depleted?
So I was just coming off from couple of flights, 2 nights of flying, and I looked down before landing on the lighting landscape, as we say. We still see a lot of HPS lamps.
Sure.
And most cities did not switch yet to LEDs. I mean, you can see a lot switched off to LEDs, but there's still a lot of legacy lamps around.
You're primarily, CBC Lighting is primarily, you guys sell LEDs, but I think your power zone is in the accumulation of legacy stock, is it not?
Our power zone is dictated by the customer. Honestly. So
Yeah.
so we cater to the demands of the customer. So if a customer demands an LED, we'll search for an LED for them. If the customer wants an obsolete lamp, we'll search for it. We have a network of vendors who have stock on legacy products, and some of them in LEDs. And
like there's legacy LEDs too.
Yes, and that comes in very handy because let's say if you have you're doing a new project and you do phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, now you want to do phase 4, and all of a sudden it's discontinued.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do? Because from generation to generation in LEDs, there might be a difference. Might be going from 830 to 930. It might be going from X lumens to a higher lumen, etc., etc. So people are trying to match what they have existing, and or sometimes even just it burned out, not because
LEDs burn out.
not because not because it burns out, because either somebody the voltage peaked or some other electrical if you have a lot of outages, it triggers lamps to go off faster, etc. Because when it comes on, the voltage surge, etc.
But you're seeing a lot of the LED legacy LED, I guess we'll call it, is getting phased out, and then you guys are keeping some stock of that, but eventually that'll go away too.
I'm not saying we're keeping stock. I'm saying I have
Okay.
access to vendors who might have stock, or some of them who might buy the full manufacturer stock of that. Let's say we're talking 2017 product, 2018 product. When the manufacturer is bringing in the newer version, they sell off the older version and somebody buys it for a discounted price, and we know who that is. Again, not always, not everybody, not all the products, not all the manufacturers, but we dabble in that, and we know where to reach out.
So eventually those generations are going to be gone, and I kind of see that as a potential issue for the industry as a whole. Is people that bought initial LEDs and they may have a couple out, and maybe they have a couple hundred that they want. Now they're going to have a different look. I'm not even talking just lamp, but fixture and everything that goes along with it. I don't know if that problem's ever going to get solved, but it's good to know that there are options to buy the old product.
Correct, and the same thing is if they want to add just a few lamps, or they want to do a new rack or a window showcase, etc.
Sure.
That they have something existence and they have to redo it.
It's interesting because I often have complaints on my order desk from the guys that take orders and gals, is that everything's a project. Right? Like everything's like, oh, I got to take this lamp and find the new lamp that replaces it, or apply for a rebate, or give the guy a quote. There's no more, hey, I'll take 120 of these and 120 of those and you ship. The industry's become a lot more complicated for the consumer and for the supplier.
Correct.
Right, because you have to communicate it after the fact. Sometimes they come to you and they say, hey, get me this part. And you say, okay, I'll get you that. And then you have to go back to him and say, oh, sorry, I can't get you that, but I can get you this. Is that going to work? And
can you send me a sample of that? Because I got to check to make sure it works. And it's like,
right.
It's become a lot more complicated.
Sure. So like years ago, you get a PO.
Yeah.
You process it, you ship it. Today, you get a PO. You have to check if the product is still available, and if it's the same product code, and if it's the same lumens and the same color and the same everything. And sometimes even the beam spread. This is made in a 24 degree, 25 degree, and that's made in a 35 degree and a 40 degree. And some people call this an NFL, and some people call this an FL. So it's very scattered. In it's not so general as getting a PO shipping. You have to check with the manufacturer if they still have stock, and if they don't have stock, if they have something that replaces it or a compatible product, and if the customer wants to live with a compatible product, if it's a little bit different, etc., etc. So the same, let's say, $1,500 PO that it took you 3 minutes to process could take you hours.
Yeah, and multiple calls back and forth, and maybe a sample. It's are we monetizing this complexity?
I don't think we can, and getting answers from manufacturers is also not easy, and sometimes they don't even know.
Yeah, try to find an old LED cut sheet, and it's difficult. Even when you search it, sometimes you find some things, but then it doesn't give you all the details you need to know to match it up. So exactly, it's tough.
And even the manufacturers themselves, they say, "Did you Google it?" They do the same thing as we do. So, you would think that they would know.
Yes. You know what's interesting?
Your product.
You know where it's the most difficult, and this is just my anecdotal. I'm not saying that this is the rule, but for me, where it's most difficult is CFL ballasts. Okay, so in the past, if somebody ordered a CFL ballast, we'd have the price. We'd usually use the price they paid last time, and sometimes we'd bump them up a little, but we'd be able to find it. We'd find it somewhere and ship them the product, right? Now it's like you can't find CFL ballast anymore. And I have customers that did ballast compatible LED projects with CFLs, right? And then it's out. They're like, oh, okay, it's a warranty issue. I'm like, well, take one of those lamps and put it in the other one that's working and tell me if it still works, right? Which is a pain in the butt for the customer, but they'll do it. Yep. So they do it. No, the bulb still works. You need a ballast then. Okay, here's the ballast. Uh-oh.
How about you bypass it, Mike? Don't say that.
Now they have to buy a new LED lamp to bypass it.
Correct.
You're right. Then they've got a mix, and then that one is bypassed, that one's not. It's a nightmare.
Yes, man. It really is a nightmare. And so in Canada, we have mix in 347 volt to the mix, buddy.
Ugh. Oh man,
Yes.
Gross, dude. It's and you know what it is? It's coming down the pipeline right now towards us, and it's only going to get worse.
Yes, in the interim, until the LEDs become mainstream by far more than it is now.
When you say mainstream, do you mean standardization?
No, I mean fixtures. So there is what I would call the cheap replacement.
Okay.
Or not cheap as in cheap, it's just low cost replacement. So a T8 LED is a low cost replacement versus a new fixture.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting to the point where people put in new fixtures, and even I would even say that an LED not plate, how do you call it? The LED
flat
panels is also a cheap replacement.
Sure.
It fades the color with age, etc., and it's not, the lumen package is not there. There's a lot of cheap replacements, and some people don't care because either they're building condos and they just put in the cheapest thing to light up, and then whoever's going to live there is going to replace whatever is there.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's a tenant moving into a commercial place, and the landlord doesn't want to put in a lot of money in it. He just lights up the place the cheapest way possible, and that's it. It's not long-term energy focused.
I'll tell you, I have another anecdote for you. We got this condominium client of ours, so 500 suites. Every suite has a little light fixture beside the door that shines down on the number of the suite.
Yeah.
Okay. This thing is super thin and swanky looking, right? Now the builder, I guarantee you the builder bought this thing directly from China and imported it. Okay. It's got, and that happens a lot, by the way. More and more and more builders are going directly to China and importing whole fixture packages for buildings. Try to find, the drivers are starting to go. This is 3 years old. These little tiny drivers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Keystone doesn't have it. I'm taking a blank here, but like nobody has a driver that has this amperage, this size, this shape. You can't get it.
And that's the first thing that goes in an LED fixture.
Yeah, and what's happening is, so the condo either has to change every fixture on a floor and save the ones that are still working and install them in the ones that burn out, or they got to change all the fixtures in the whole building 3 years in. And you're talking like $150 a fixture installed, maybe more. And then you got to find
something they were sold that was going to last forever.
Yeah, but
or at least.
Yeah, well, think about it, because the condo market's interesting. You brought up the condo market because the residential, multi-residential high-rise is always treated in the home category, but really it's one of the toughest applications. You got 24/7 on, right, in those hallways and parking garages and all that stuff. Okay, and you got some of the chintziest stuff you can find installed by builders in these buildings, as cheap as it gets, because as soon as they're gone, that Terry-on home warranty's over, or whatever it is, they're gone, baby. And these condo boards are getting left with no replacement bulbs, no replaceable parts, fixture directly imported from China. Nobody knows where to find the driver. This is a major pipeline problem for the lighting industry.
And we're facing with more and more issues just because it's so time consuming just to fill an order, and time consuming to, like you said, in the drivers. The main manufacturers don't stock drivers as they used to stock ballasts.
Nope.
Because the drivers is still in the manufacturing stage or OEM stage. It's not yet in the shelf life stage.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
It's tougher to get. It's tougher to negotiate prices because you never need 500 drivers. You need 3, 4, 5, whatever it blew up out. That's what you need, and it's very tough. And that's some of our strengths is we cater to the driver market, and we supply drivers to the people, and we see that. It's onesies, twosies. It's not volume.
That's a pain in the butt.
It is, but it's a service, and that's one of our strong points.
Do you think drivers will ever get standardized? Like they are, like fluorescent ballasts have been, or are HID ballasts have been?
Well, I think it's NEMA that came out and said that if you're going to make a T12 ballast, it has to do this amperage, it has to be this size, it has to be this voltage, it has to have these color wires on it, and all this sort of stuff. That form factor setting is completely gone in the lighting business.
Usually, a driver or an RFQ for drivers would go either with a picture of whatever is in the fixture, and that's the easiest way to identify it. But sometimes you can identify it, you cannot identify it because it's some Chinese company that you don't know how even to search for it.
Yeah, see, and what I always have an issue with drivers too is that if and you know how the LED life, and we talked about this before, Mike, but as a chip decreases in lumen output over time, and then maybe the fixture fails, you can replace the driver, but now when you put a new driver and that chip is lost 30% of the light, and you put a new driver, it might work again and it continue to work, but it's going to continue to decrease light. So it's not providing the light you needed to begin with. So now you got to go back and maybe swap the whole fixture. You know, so that's what.
100%.
Yeah.
And now many manufacturers now try to do their fixtures as parts, so you can replace parts. But and that's also in the, I would say, the cheaper manufacturers, because the high-end manufacturers, you don't have to replace parts and you cannot touch a fixture. It's a sealed cylinder or a sealed
solid state piece of electronics, like a MacBook.
That's it.
Yeah.
You cannot touch it. It's a throwaway product.
Integrated.
But integrated. They stand behind it for 5 years, and some of them now for 10 or for 7 years. And some people say, who needs a longer life than that in lamps? You renovate a building or renovate a store or a hotel before the life cycle of an LED.
Well, the interesting you brought up the word life cycle, and we've talked about this before, Greg, that we've increased the lifetime of the light source, but we've decreased the life cycle of the unit. Is this more or less environmentally friendly? I mean, that's got to be asked. The whole rebate thing is based upon the saving energy or being more environmentally friendly, you know? And is it, even if you save all that energy over that course of that life of that fixture, say 5, 7, 10 years, I'm not going to push it past 10 years in a commercial application. I don't care what anybody says. If you then have to make a new light fixture, ship it across the ocean, and put it in that place again, is that more, like, what's the carbon footprint of that? It can't possibly be less. I don't know. I mean, call me crazy, especially in Ontario and Quebec, where you already have clean energy.
Yes and no, because the fixture, if you don't have to touch it for 5 years or 7 years, so there's no ballast replacement, there's no manpower required to do anything, there's no lamp recycling, so there's some factors in the energy and more environmental than that.
Now, how long have you guys been in business, Abe? Your company?
My company has been in business since 1995.
95. Are you seeing So you're supplying legacy technology and LED now. Are you seeing the demand for legacy or your market share of legacy products increasing because people don't have it as much and the demand is there when people do need it? If you get what I'm asking, I don't know if I'm asking that the right way.
No,
but
no. So let me explain.
Yeah.
The legacy product did not go away as fast as was anticipated when the new kid on the block, the LEDs, were coming out. But
Okay.
it's still. I'm trying to stop selling T12s, and I can't. and I'm charging a lot more money than I used to when it was a commodity.
Sure.
Okay, so I guess the end user pays more for a T12 and still using it. Maybe because it burned out, climbs up on the ladder, takes it out and says, "This is what I need," and he doesn't want to hear about anything else.
Well, so you know what though? But he has that right too. They have that right. Like I think Alan Karen from Satco said it best: "Is who am I to say? Like who am I to say that somebody shouldn't use this bulb versus that bulb? I just sell light bulbs, right? At the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like I'm not some kind of, I'm not passing judgment on T12 lamps. You know what I mean? Like, oh, how dare you use a T12 lamp in 2019? What's the matter with you?
You suggest replacements and let them decide what they want.
Exactly.
Yeah, and again, take it from a different perspective. I am not selling to the end user, so I cannot say, don't use a T12. I cannot. The customer wants a T12. This is what I'm giving him because his customer wants a T12. Now, if he cannot educate his customer properly, what am I going to do? So I have no choice.
Well, educate the customer properly. They say you get an online order. I get an online order. Someone in Campbellville, Ontario, orders a case of F40 T12DX, right? Try to get that guy on the phone. And then on top of that, try to tell him, hey, okay, now what you're going to do instead of ordering this case of light bulbs is you're going to take the ballast out, you're going to change it to a T8 ballast, or you're going to go, but what voltage do you have? It's not worth it for the $90 you're charging the thing, so ship them the bulbs.
Right. And again, there's two types of people. There's one kind of person, he wants it, he orders it, boom, over and gone. He doesn't want to hear anything. And then there's the other kind of person that, okay, there's sub available. You can save energy, you can save the environment, and there's an economical payoff to it. He's gonna listen to it. But you never know who the person is when it's online or something.
Our lowest success rate is when we call someone that's ordered online and ask them if they want to upgrade. Like that's like
they ordered online because they didn't want to talk to you to begin with.
Exactly. It's like, buddy, what are you talking about here? Okay, when am I getting my bulbs? No, we don't want you to buy those bulbs. We actually took your money, but we want you to buy these other bulbs. It's like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, man.
What's the highest selling legacy item that you guys still, is it T12 or is there something else that you're selling a lot of?
Are you sitting?
I'm sitting.
Okay. I sold sock slams this week.
Woo!
What? SOX 135.
Woo!
How'd you find those?
Those are hot, man. Those are hot.
I sold over 1,000 pieces.
Come on.
Really?
You know,
one person?
No, but a lot of
one line item.
A lot of mines use socks. A lot of mines.
Can you imagine that it's still in some highways? There's still sock slams lighting up the roadways.
Sure.
Wow.
Well, look, people don't have the capital. Okay, like you got to remember. And the other thing too is like, look at a city like Detroit. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. If you were a municipality and you're the mayor, like those, like whatever happened there, I don't know who got, so let's say you're looking at a capital infusion, you got, whatever, you're going to spend $40 million, right? Comes along the pipe. We're going to upgrade all our lights for $40 million. And when you do this, you're going to have a 5-year payback guaranteed. Right? And it's like, holy mackerel, that's a potential huge mistake. Or we could just keep our maintenance budget at $500,000 a year.
Sure.
So some of them,
right? I mean,
yeah. Some of them issue bonds when they do it.
Yeah.
And it's paid out by that.
Yeah.
So they have the leverage and they have the financial capability.
Sure.
And some of them just put it in their yearly budget, and that's where it gets collaborated.
See, the bigger the municipality, it's like LA, I think, is in the process of redoing all of its LED lights right now. Is that, Scott, is that correct? Was that in the light read last week?
2 weeks, yeah.
LA is going to redo
Upgrade
it.
the LED.
Montreal did it.
All LED.
All LED.
And they're going to redo it now?
No. Oh, redo the LED.
LA is going to
Okay.
redo all the LED lights they did.
I mean, the future.
Like when they did it, no, hang on a second here. When they did it, Abe, they did it 2012 or something like that. You're talking $1,200 for each one of those light fixtures. Come on,
yeah.
no? Something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
At that time, LEDs were a baby.
$1,200.
Or in the incubator.
There is no way they got their money back. There is no way. And maybe they're disguising this IoT thing or something. I'm just pure speculation, tinfoil hat on here. But they're starting to go out. Seals are bursting. Areas are dark. And no. We're not fixing the ones, and they weren't. The company that sold to them is out of business. This is not. No, we want to upgrade to IoT now. Now we're going to get our money back.
No, when you're talking...
it just seems so ridiculous to me.
Okay, but when you're talking LA, it's the environment that pushed it. I don't think it's economics.
Oh, you mean the environment of the people that live in LA, or the after?
No. To save the environment pushed it more.
Politics.
Yeah, politics. Yeah, sure.
Politics than I think. Again, it's LA.
Mm-hmm.
It's their whole municipality is driven by that.
The Republic of Early Adopters. That's what California is.
Yeah.
Early adopters, listen to me, son. Early adopters always get burned every single time.
I mean, you have even some LEDs that you cannot sell in LA, replacement lamps, because it doesn't meet there's specific California guides, what you can sell, what you cannot sell.
You know what's so strange about stuff like that? So it's easier to trade in some things between Arizona and Ontario than Arizona and California. It's easier to trade in some goods between Ontario and Minnesota than it is between Ontario and Quebec. It's unbelievable. They're these inter-country trade things. Imagine having a law within the same country over light bulbs. It seems so absurd to me, dude. Is it not absurd?
Oh yeah, it definitely is. I think that's
How
why they're
dare
going
you
back
use that MR16? No, we went on a tour of Northern California. We went on tour, and every single lighting distributor we walked into had scores that were hoarding GE constant color MR16s. Hoarding
every one of them. Yeah, it's crazy.
I would buy any I can get.
Yeah, me too.
Now, some designers told me they couldn't find yet an LED replacement for a GE constant color MR16.
Guaranteed.
The punch, the color, the crispness, everything.
And then the beam, the very precise beam degrees that you can get, and the wattage levels, and the 0 to 100.
And they're discontinuing it.
The 0 to 100. Listen to us, Current. Don't be silly. Fire those machines back up. The 0 to 100 and dim to warm. You can't beat it, dude.
That's right.
It's tough. If you want,
Everybody wants it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those where it's going to be interesting to see, because the other thing too, the idea of this is a repeating cyclical problem that LED is going to create. It's not like once we get through all the legacy sockets to LED that this problem is going to go away. It's going to get worse.
I mean,
right.
Look at the replacement sockets that you just put in an LED replacement.
Yeah.
All those sockets, I'm not going to say 5 years, but in 10 years, they're all going to be gone. They're going to be new fixtures.
I think what's going to happen. Ellis Yan was leaning back with us at Lightfair going, we need to go back to the socket. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like the socket. It's easy.
Got to go back to the socket.
I mean,
for sure.
Let's say you're opening up a store. If you want to put LED fixtures, it's going to cost you anywhere from $150 to $200 to $250 a pop.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. If you put in a gimbal ring and an LED PAR 38, it's going to cost you by far less than $40.
For sure.
Yeah.
MR16, LED, GU10, whatever.
Anything.
Yeah.
So
And what happens when it burns out?
you screw it out and you put it
Screw
in.
it back in.
That's it.
Exactly.
But
Yes.
your investment is not there. And I don't know. And there are some national accounts who go that route.
This is I'll tell you this. There's a ticking time bomb. Like there's going to be, it's just tick, 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 tick. And you know what's interesting about the whole thing? You know what? So I'm gonna play a really weird card here, Greg, and you cut me off if you think I'm being weird or whatever.
Give it a go. Yeah.
Okay. This is going to be a weird one, Abe. Ready for this? Before the Second World War, the Second World War really started when Japan invaded China. Okay, like 1937 or something like that. That's when Japan invaded China, and that's where all the killing happened, by the way. Everything else was like a skirmish, except for Russia and China. But anyway, so what the U.S. and Britain were doing to Japan was they were cutting off all these different economic imports that the Japanese wanted to import. All sorts of things like raw materials and oil, and they were just like anaconda strangling them in the Pacific. They knew they were a threat, so they started an economic war first. Sound familiar? Okay.
Sure.
And then, so what happened was because the U.S. was exporting so much to Japan, okay, the U.S. could just say, you know what we're going to do? We don't like what you're doing anymore. We're not going to give you access to this material. We're not going to give you access to that material. Right? And Japan said, well, we're just going to invade this country over here and take what they have there. And so the escalation of tensions, right? It's interesting that one of the things China could do to America to really screw them up is to disallow the export of LEDs to America. That would cause massive problems because we wouldn't be able to light up our buildings. Like within 5 years, we'd be fighting in the dark. They wouldn't be able to build the capacity. They wouldn't be able to get the rare earths. You could start a serious problem for the United States just by stopping the export of LEDs.
Yeah, but rare earths, first of all, is only used in fluorescents.
Yeah. But I'm talking just
the raw material.
Yeah, or not just raw. No, just the export of finished LED lamps.
But they can do that in any commodity, any product. It's not only lighting.
Sure.
I mean, they're the manufacturer of the world.
But think about that. We've turned over that to possibly the only person that in history, the last 100 years, could actually threaten the United States. Dominance of the world. Like, that's insane, man. Like,
yes,
think about it. And it's all across lots of industry. But I'm in the lighting business, and I'm like, hey, you know, if the Chinese just said we're not exporting LED tubes to America anymore. What? You're not doing what?
Yeah, but don't think that LEDs are made by robots.
Sure.
Okay? So to set up a robot in any other place in the world than China is not such a big deal.
But China makes the robots too.
Okay. Most of them.
If it can be done, why aren't people doing it? Is what I always ask manufacturers when we talk to them. Is like, well, then do it. You know, bring the robotics over here and start making your lamps here. But they all say, it's still cheaper at China.
No, TCP did it for filling
They're
orders.
building a place in Ohio, I think. Yeah. But
But let's
but TCP is a Chinese company too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's start.
Anyway, there's my conspiracy theory for the day. Hat on.
Okay.
Take it off.
Let's try to talk something positive in the lighting business.
Okay, good.
Is there anything?
I mean, I think I'm monetizing the complexity. I'm beginning to monetize it a little bit. So yes, I think I'm starting to figure out how to change the nature of my relationship to my customers of one of PO and ship to one of what do you got, bud? Let's figure it out, and being able to charge for that.
So being of the service, and I call myself a service guy because I don't initiate an RFQ. It's done by my customer. So if you give a customer a good service, he will buy. And that's the positive thing in lighting is you educate them, you give them the best options, and you don't gouge them, just decent, reasonable prices, and you have the customer.
I think on a positive side too is it's kind of up for grabs right now. We're all trying to figure this thing out, and whoever figures it out is going to be successful. We all have different angles at it, but it's up for grabs is what I like about it. I know that there's some negatives to that too, obviously.
I'll say a couple things too. Is that a lot of people entered the lighting business and exited, but a lot of my old friends are still standing.
Right.
That's right.
How about that for a positive?
I mean,
there you go.
When I entered the lighting business, the MI16 was the new kid on the block. Then the halogen thing, the PAR halogen and other halogen was the new thing on the block. Then there was the T8s. There was so much excitement in the lighting field. And I think there was a stupidity of all the manufacturers to go from a T12, F40 T12 to an F34 T12 and from an F96 T12 from a 75 watt to a 60 watt. That kept the T12 going instead of just moving on to the T8 where it's automatically a reduced wattage.
Yep.
So in the LED field, you of course there's the economics and the savings and everything else, but you still have to supply a good light source for the customer to be happy. And there's so many places you walk in and the lights just blind you, or there's so much glare, or it's the wrong color for the application, etc., because many people don't know what they're doing, and there's the professional. Either it's costing him too much to educate the customer, and therefore he just skips it and gives whatever is available, or there's not enough knowledge of the terms, lumen terms, color temperature terms, and
they're changing them.
So
yeah,
interchanging them and so on and so forth. So if we focus, and we're known to focus on saying for the customer, you want to have a nice building, you want to have a nice store, you want to see your product properly, this is what we have, go for it.
So you know that Greg and I are now have formed a management company, and we're running Nailed. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I saw it in one of the
right. So it's interesting. So we go around and we used to be in the same association, Abe. Okay. But so, what's interesting is that we were touring Northern California and Denver. We went around a little bit and talked to some people. And then obviously on Long Island, we talked to some distributors, Greg, and trying to bring them into the association. And what's interesting is that everybody is asking us for a payback. And I want to get that word out of the lighting business. Okay. Okay. What's the ROI of being in Nailed? There is no ROI. Okay. Jerko. All right. Here's why you join an association. You join an association not for what the association gives to you, but what we as a group can give back to the industry by getting together, by having these kinds of discussions, Abe. These kinds of discussions in and of themselves are valuable to the lighting business, which is why we're recording them. We're going to put it out there. 2,000-3,000 people are going to listen to this, maybe more. Okay. And those are going to be lighting professionals. And so association amongst different like-minded people in the same business is extremely, extremely important. I know this, so I run Nailed, whatever. That's why you join associations. You join buying groups to get an ROI, to get a payback, to get a rebate. That's why you join a buying group. You join an associate. You don't pollute an association with some sort of payoff, because then your reason for joining becomes a monetary reason, and you lose your integrity in that. And that's why there are associations, and that's why there are buying groups. And so, Abe, I'm going to ask you at $6.95, you coming back into Nailed?
It's now a 90% yes.
90% yes. He's saying 90%. There's a chance. He's saying there's a chance.
He's telling me there's a chance.
Abe, thank you for being a guest on the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. It was really fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, Abe. Good to see you.
All right.
We'll be in touch.
Keystone Technologies, Greg. Go to KEYSTONETECH.com. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Abraham Schnitzler. Greg, we're talking drivers from Keystone. Everybody forgets that Keystone was a ballast company. So, of course, they're great with drivers, man.
And that's something that you need to be aware of in the lighting industry. A lot of LED is taking over and drivers are needed. And they have a easiest programmable LED driver on the market. It's just, you'll see it on screen here, but just a simple twist of their unique speed dial, and you can program it to your current output desired in less than a second. You reduce SKUs doing this. It fits multiple fixtures, and it does everything you need to keep that LED going. Check them out.
Go to KeystoneTech.com. That's KeystoneEtech.com, baby. And of course, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, where it all started, where we met you, Abe.
Yes.
Where this podcast started. I remember a lot of great conversations. I remember one particularly in San Antonio we had, and then there was a big thunderstorm that night. You remember that, Greg?
I do. That was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're sitting outside.
So our convention is April 19th to 22nd in Biloxi, Mississippi, folks. Come on down. It ain't over Passover this year.
Right.
It's not on.
I already checked the date.
It's not on Easter, and it's not during Light Fair. It's the place to be, folks. We picked a strategic date for all of our members and vendors to come on out and come on down. Nothing's going to stop you this year. Abe, thanks for being a guest on the show. CBClighting.com.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was fun. And, it's interesting that as the LED progresses, we're going to see the value of legacy stock rise a little bit, aren't we?
Right. And we're also going to see the value of a distributor giving to the customer.
Bingo. Folks, we are
Perfect.
most grateful to you, the listener, all you folks out there that download, watch, stream, like us on Facebook, all that kind of stuff, especially on LinkedIn, actually. Over 1,000 views on our last post, man. That's pretty wild for a light bulb dork post, eh, Greg?
That was nice. Yeah, I saw that last night. It keeps growing too.
Thank you. We love our fans. Yes, Abe.
There's one major thing I want to say about light bulbs. When somebody wants to talk about a great idea, it's the light bulb that comes on.
Boom.
There you go.
So check out cbclighting.com if you're a distributor. And of course, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, Get a Grip on Lighting, is out of here. Thank you for listening.
Written on the rectory wall, there's a sign there for all. You are lost, Lord is there to find you.